What is going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 3 of the Sergeant Sentinel Gaming Podcast on YouTube. I'm SSG, aka Sergeant Sentinel, and thank you so much for dropping in. I greatly appreciate it. Joining me today are Dreadpool, and we have Mr. Bushido and Infinite Umbra that are supposed to be here. They'll probably be a little late, but that's cool. I'm going to introduce them when they show up. Dreadpool, thank you so much for being a guest on episode 3. I appreciate it so much. Why don't you tell our viewers, listeners, what you've been playing this week?
Oh, good question. When it comes to gameplay, it's hard to remember what I'm playing because I'm too busy either working, sleeping, or editing videos. But I did play a little bit of GoldenEye, the unofficial 360 version.
Right.
So played that online with a couple other people in the community, and it was pretty cool. Going back to the old school 360 days and
Right.
playing on that. But yeah.
The version we should have got, right?
Yes, exactly. No, that's the thing. And they've been playing it before I did, so they helped me obtain it.
Nice.
And Tiny Giant ended up playing on the console, and they had no idea that you can actually play local and online. So we just found out a couple weeks ago by Tiny Giant joining us and playing right next to me, and she enjoyed it. She was like, she's never played this game before,
right?
And she's all right with first person shooter. She's still a kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had a great time. She mentioned to Death Dealer that I had a great time playing with Daddy and this and that, and it was like, oh, I didn't think anything of it. I wasn't thinking like bonding moment. I was just thinking, hey, we're gonna play some games, and she wanted to play. Let's play. So it's cool when games can give you that bonding moment unintentionally.
Yeah. Nice, very nice. That's it's great that they had the online multiplayer for that. It's kind of sad they didn't have it in the GoldenEye port that we got with Rare Replay, right?
Yeah.
Feels like a missed opportunity. All right, cool. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and jump into our first topic. While we're waiting for the other two guys to show up. Bully is coming back, and it's just a port. It's just a simple port to like GTA Plus. It's not a remaster or remake, and I know some people were kind of upset about this, but I mean, with the way Rockstar Games is, they just wanted to get it kind of out the door, I guess. Mm-hmm. Let me see. Give me just a second. I'm going to pull it up. Actually, let me do this. Here we go. All right. Rockstar Classic Bully launches on new platforms via GTA Plus this week. And, of course, a listing on a country's rating board site suggests that a new version of Bully is coming to current-gen consoles and is likely part of Rockstar's GTA Plus service. We know that's not the case. It's just a simple port, basically, of the PS2 version for the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. But it's going to be the Scholarship Edition for Xbox Series consoles. Now, were you a fan of Bully back in the day when it launched? And hearing that it's dropping on current gen consoles, is that something that you were excited about?
I mean, who wasn't a fan of Bully? It was a great game that was widely misunderstood. Everybody, they didn't realize that you were standing up to the bullies. You were a bully at in sorts.
Right.
But when you actually play the game, I know it's spoiler alert, but when you actually play the game, you're actually standing up against the real bullies, and the repercussions you're dealing with as you get caught. But yeah, no, I played it. I loved it. I'm actually interested in this one only for the fact of nostalgia.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm fearful that they're going to put the bare minimum, which is what it sounds like.
Right.
And if you're just going to do a straight port, just tell me it's a straight port. Don't do the Grand Theft Auto trilogy, Rain and BS like that they did.
Right. Yeah,
I
with
don't.
Grove Street Games. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I completely agree. I think a lot of people had really wanted them to do a remaster because it's kind of like a cult classic. It didn't really take off the way like Grand Theft Auto or Red Dead did, but there's still a lot of fans of this game. And I remember the controversy we're talking about whenever they were first revealing this game. There were a lot of people that are anti-game, and same type of people that were going after Mortal Kombat for the violence were saying, "Oh, this game glorifies being a bully," and of course that was never the case. Like you said, you standing up to the bullies. That's what a lot of the game is about, and it's great because I subscribe to GTA Plus for my PS5. I do it so that I can live stream a lot of their games. So this is great. But at the same time, I do I feel like those that are, the diehard bully fans, I kind of feel bad for them because they're not getting a proper remaster like they would have wanted.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm fearful for that. And if you're gonna do it right. Don't do the money grab thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and we saw with Grove Street Games, it took them a while to fix certain issues with the game that it shouldn't have been an issue at launch. It should have been fixed. And I think a lot of people before Grove Street Games dropped the ball, I think a lot of people were very optimistic regarding the GTA Definitive Edition coming out. But once it came out and they saw that Rockstar Games essentially didn't really have anything to do with it, then they're a lot more skeptical of any of these games getting remastered because they're like, well, I don't want it to end up like that.
Right.
And I mean, like with Red Dead Redemption, it was kind of a remaster. It doesn't really look that much different, especially with, because like for us Xbox gamers, we already had Red Dead Redemption on our Xbox consoles. And, with the Xbox, of course, they do the upscaling, and it runs at 60 frames per second. So it wasn't really a noticeable difference to us, but it kind of feels like games like this, where PlayStation doesn't really have true backwards compatibility, it feels like it's more catering to them than to Xbox gamers.
Yeah.
Especially since we already have a Bully the Scholarship Edition. It's like I own it for the Xbox, so I play it all the time, but it's nice to have it on PlayStation. It's just unfortunate that it's a simple port.
Yeah.
All right, the next bit of news we're going to talk about. Let me see. You know what? I do want to talk about this. I do want to talk about Black Myth Wukong. Now, we know it's doing crazy numbers, especially for single-player games on PC. There is an article that I wanted to talk about. So give me just a second. Let me pull it up. It's kind of interesting because it seems like there's kind of a clash between Eastern studios and Western studios as far as this goes. Let me see. I'll pull the article up and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. And I saw this and I was like, wow, this is kind of interesting. So Black Myth Wukong marketing team offers content creators a Steam key, but bans feminist propaganda and all talks of COVID. Do and don'ts revealed. Now, sometimes we'll see this from like studios that are like, hey, you know what, you got to be respectful and all this, but it seems like their guidelines were much more specific. What are your thoughts about them outlining this type of guidance with their requirements?
It's funny. A lot of people have issues with this. The way I look at it is, if this was my product, I would want this should be the bare minimum, just in general.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This should be the bare minimum of all the stuff. If you read along, don't insult other influencers or players.
Right.
That shouldn't even have to be said. Okay. Don't use any offensive language or humor. And again, that's one of those things that you want to make sure that people are feeling welcomed. You want to make sure that people are not offended by anything, because you want them to watch somebody play the game. You want them to watch somebody play your game that you're proud of. You know, the whole politics, violence, nudity, all that stuff. You don't want any of those agendas, those narratives. You don't want any of that stuff, right? So
Yeah.
you just, and it's not like you're trying to say, hey, look, I want to have um, good ratings on my game. I want to have, make sure you use this and that. So, when they're doing stuff like this, they're trying to help the streamer out. They're trying to help obviously they want to put their game in a good light,
Right.
but they're also trying to help out, because if you follow down, the next one is uh, the quarantine, isolation, COVID. They don't want those trigger words
Yeah.
to be hit by YouTube or anybody else to say, hey, look, they were discussing this misinformation, the algorithm automatically misunderstanding what because you said of what.
Right.
You're talking about the T virus, and here we are, the whole thing's getting shut down. Well, you don't
Yeah.
want that, and of course, you don't talk about that other country with their policies because they frown upon that. You know what I mean? So again, you don't want that negativity.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is because of where they're from and everything, they know that there's going to be those people that will bash just to bash,
Yeah.
and they're not there to support the streamer. They're not there to do anything. And some streamers do it for the hypocrisy of getting attention.
Right.
So they want to make sure that whoever's getting these codes are abiding by these rules to not have these issues arise or being associated with the game.
Right.
How many times uh, have athletes, rappers, rock stars said, even movie stars said something that they were affiliated with and getting sponsored by brands. I mean, Nike has dropped how many people
Yeah.
before because of things? This is the same situation, and it's just, I feel that a lot of common decency has been pushed away from uh, social media
Yeah.
and people online for YouTube or any kind of creators. They're trying to do stuff like that just to get that attention. Now we have Twitter that you're farming, just by trolling people. You're
Right.
farming for attention, and now you can get paid for that. So again, they just don't want that negativity with their game. And the way I look at it, if that was my game, I wouldn't want that either. So I'm perfectly fine with those rules. There's nothing that they said was hypocritical or shady.
Right. Yeah, and especially with like, we see it all the time in the United States, obviously. People will do all kinds of stuff just to get attention. And I mean, it's fine if they're, live streaming something like Fortnite, but of course, Black Myth Wukong, it's coming from China, I believe. And it's like, their rules that they want followed are not the same as ours, obviously. And they don't want their game associated with that type of stuff. And like you
Right.
said, it's completely reasonable and acceptable. It's just, I think a lot of people, it seems like a lot of people are kind of attacking them because they're associated with China. you know it seems like that's because China takes a much more hardline stance with some of the stuff that American companies would let slide. And it kind of feels like that's why some people are making a big deal out of it.
Yeah. And that's the other thing is some people just, as soon as something happens, it's all in your feelings, gut reaction. The sky's falling. We have to automatically freak out about this. We have to automatically, this anything that somebody tells you to do is always no good, even though they're doing it
Right.
to help you or doing it because they're trying to be, I don't know, ethical.
Yeah. The ability to take constructive criticism.
Hmm.
The, I think if people could take constructive criticism and say, oh, you know what, they called me out on this, but I can learn from this and become a better content creator, there wouldn't be as many issues. But you have a lot of people that they go from 0 to pissed in like 2.5 seconds, And I think that's where a lot of these issues come from, especially with something like this. And it's like right up front with them saying, hey, do this, don't do that. It kind of provides the content creator or the live streamer with a very specific way to act so that they're not going to do something that would get them called out, Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let me see. I have one more before we jump into the Gamescom stuff, because I know there was so much that came out at Gamescom that looked great so far, and it's only the first night. One more thing I did want to talk about, though, was, let me see, I'm looking for it. The Final Fantasy 16 PC port officially announced with September release date and a demo. Now, as far as Final Fantasy goes, back in the day, it really feels like it was PlayStation's darling, so to speak. But since they're just not doing the sales numbers they need to, it's hard for them to stay exclusive. That's what it seems like. And I know PlayStation is so far they've been reluctant to bring any of their games, or like Square Enix, if something was exclusive to PlayStation, they're very reluctant to bring it to Xbox, but it seems like PC is the next step in that direction. And of course, Final Fantasy 16 is heading to PC on September 17th, 2024. It's going to cost $50. And there are 2 expansions, Echoes of the Fallen and The Rising Tide, are launching simultaneously on PC too, but you'll have to pay extra if you want to play them. They're offering a complete version of the game for $70. It comes with a base experience, both DLCs, few miscellaneous in-game items, and they confirmed that a demo is available on Steam and the Epic Games Store now, with any progress made in the demo carrying over to the full build. Now, what are your thoughts about them bringing Final Fantasy 16 to PC? I mean, was this something like you're like it's a no-brainer, or did it kind of surprise you?
I mean, with the way that they're going and complaining that they're bleeding money, it was a no-brainer. It made sense that they have to go elsewhere. They have to look everywhere. And the surprise was that it was going also to Epic. So I figured, going to Steam, no-brainer, but going to Epic also,
right?
That was definitely a shocker. So mixed bag on that one, right?
Right.
Epic Games are having a hard time trying to get people on their just in the service, let alone the games to get in the service. So
right.
Seeing that was good. It's good because it gives people opportunities. If Epic decides to do a discount or something, at least it's there for them to make that choice.
Right.
And on top of that, some people just they'll go to Steam regardless, but at least it gives people a choice when it comes to the PC section.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's a good thing. Overall,
it seems like a lot of people on Xbox actually wanted Final Fantasy games to come to Xbox. Now you're primarily an Xbox gamer?
Primarily, yes. I have a PC that can play games.
Right.
I just choose not to. I choose it more for, I do the dual PC method, which the Xbox is the game player, and then the PC is actually the streamer doing all the other stuff. So when it comes to that, I use my PC mainly for work, editing, stuff like that. Very rarely do I play, games on it, but stuff like, it's just, I can do much more, but at the same time, it's not just plug and play. And that's the whole premise of consoles. Plug and play. You go. I mean, nowadays, now you have to do updates, but at least it's still plug and play, So
right.
Yes, I would want this to go to Xbox regardless, but at least this is a step.
Right. I think that seems to be why a lot of Xbox gamers who have PCs game primarily on Xbox, just because it's a lot more streamlined, I guess. It's a lot easier to game on Xbox and not have to worry about having any technical issues. Like I have two PCs, and pretty much what I play on them are emulated like Nintendo and Super Nintendo games. I don't try anything complex,
Hmm.
but like my oldest, he has a gaming PC, and he had to reconfigure some of his things, and I'm not a gaming I'm not a gaming guy with PC as far as that stuff goes, so you'll have to figure it out on your own. And like you said, with Xbox, you don't have to worry about that. It's streamlined. It's pretty much plug and play. It's a hell of a lot easier than. And I know some tech guys will be like, "Well, it's not that complicated," and I'm like, "It's complicated to me."
Well, and that's the thing. To a lot of guys that are techie, it's not that complicated.
Yeah.
Even I booted up Modern Warfare on the PC, and I'll tell the story again. But I booted it up, and we went max settings, and
Yeah.
my UPS is actually under par for what it should be on for this PC that they can do it. So I kept on blowing the UPS and having to have to, like, as soon as I get it launched, it would just pop the UPS and shut down the whole thing. So I had to
Jesus.
actually unplug it, plug it into the outlet, power it up, get it running, and then back down the settings again. But I was playing that, and my brother-in-law was over,
Right.
and we're sitting, and I had him play for a little bit too on my account, and we're just going back and forth playing it. But we were playing with the controller,
Right.
and he's like, "This is so, it's so weird." And I didn't tell him, but I switched it over to the Xbox, and we were playing
Oh.
on the Xbox, and he still had no idea. And I said, "So, do you still like the graphics?" Because they were still high settings and everything. They just weren't ultra
Right.
and maxed out. So, but I was like, "Do you still like it?" And he's like, "Yeah, it looks great." I'm like, "All right." You're playing on the Xbox, right? He's like, "What do you mean?" "No, it's hooked up to the PC." I said, "No, I switched it over. We're back on the Xbox." So
Oh.
again,
Right.
you know what I mean? So it's like, when you
Yes.
look at it, I tricked him without letting him know until after the fact. And
Right.
even, Mr. PC couldn't even tell that he switched from PC to an Xbox, even though
Unless you
we were
told
playing on
him.
controller.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I got a 4K monitor. So, the ultra settings weren't really missing many items that you would have noticed.
Right.
So it's great to be able to say, "Oh, this and that," and so many frames a second. But once you get to a certain point, when you're playing the game, you don't realize half the stuff. A lot of those things are just little bells and whistles.
Right. Yeah.
So, and
And
it's funny.
I
You
mean,
don't, Mr. PC didn't even realize it.
yeah, and it's like Xbox even has some games that'll run 120 frames a second. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so it's like from 60 to 120, it's going to be harder to see it than from 30 to 60. And
Right.
the Series X runs so many games in 60 frames per second or better this generation. There's still a few that run 30 frames per second, but the majority of them are running 60 frames per second. So, I mean, unless they're like a guy from one of those tech websites, they're probably not going to see it.
Yeah. See, but again, when you're watching for it, you find all the little details and this and
Yeah.
that. But when you're just playing, you don't even notice it.
And it's like, is there really that much of a difference between 60 and 120? Not enough.
Once you get to a certain point, it's diminishing returns.
Yeah.
So, and people forget that. You get to an age, you don't hear as well. There's little hairs in your ears that aren't as sensitive anymore. They break off, and you
Right.
can't hear certain pitches anyway. Your eyesight's going. Um, so again, unless you're in your prime, you're not going to notice a lot of this stuff. And some of these guys are 40-year-old virgins still talking like they're in their prime and they're
Yes.
in mommy's basement. You know what I mean? Yes, I'm calling you guys out.
Yep. Yep.
So,
No, that's a good point. Definitely a good point. All right, so I guess we're going to jump into Gamescom. I know I'm bringing up first your favorite topic of the day. You probably already know what it is. Give me a second. Let me, here we go. Indiana Jones is going to PS5. Now, before we really dive into it, was it really that much of a surprise to you that this game was going to PlayStation 5?
I, you know, sad to say it wasn't.
Yeah.
You know, I would have rather had an unknown date. You know, knowing spring is still unknown,
Right.
but you know, theoretically, if that game doesn't come out in December for Xbox and PC,
Yeah.
what are they going to do? You know, they're going to push it back into 2025. Now, does spring 2025 still happen? You know,
Yeah.
I think I'd rather would have had not because I'm a fan, Xbox fanboy or anything. I think I rather would have had just them just saying, hey, look, here we are, Xbox, PC, this is our date. This is what
Right.
we're focused on. Anything else to be determined. And you already know it's coming, but you don't
Yeah.
have to sit there and be like, okay, well, I can wait 6 months and we'll be good. I mean, it's technically not even 6 months because, you can go early spring.
Right.
Well, it's 3 to 4 months, depending on, more like 4 months from this, beginning of December. But still, you're looking at it like that, like, it's only a few months. So what's your numbers going to look like? Not going to look good.
Yeah.
And by that time, maybe the hype has died off.
I mean, I kind of feel like it's going to do crazy numbers just because of Game Pass, but not necessarily sales numbers on Xbox.
Right.
And it's like, because you remember Phil, like 6 months ago, had an interview where people said, hey, Indiana, he was like, not Indiana Jones or Starfield, and you wonder if at that point they already had this conversation and they were like, hey, don't say anything yet. Like they said it might. We have to see what's going on with the license holder Disney, obviously.
Yeah, I see, and that's the other key is we don't know what the contracts are. I'm sure they were probably working on this and that, and who knows if they originally had it for one and the other, or they were working to like, hey, let's get the exclusive first over here and go over
Right.
there. Game Pass, and see, and this is the issue that people don't see. Game Pass is great for games.
Yeah.
Games going into Game Pass push the Game Pass numbers. It pushes those numbers, those metrics. Now the question is, would somebody have bought any of these games had they not been in Game Pass? Had Game Pass not existed, would some of these games flourished? We don't know. Okay, so with them going to take these older games that have been in there and shifting them over to PlayStation, to Nintendo,
Yeah.
and presenting them there without the option of Game Pass or any subscription service, you have to buy the game. That's going to show you the true number of who's willing to pay for this.
Right.
Right? So I don't have to buy it. I've got Game Pass. I can play whatever.
Right.
So when you have that kind of mentality, some people just are saying, I support the devs and I'm going to buy the game anyway, even though I have it in Game Pass. Well,
right.
If you wait, you can save some money. If you wait even longer, you can save some more money. Or wait indefinitely, and as long as it's in Game Pass indefinitely, you have it indefinitely. So as long as you have Game Pass,
Right.
So, and that's the thing is it's funny how different things happen. See, and Tom's putting it out there too with FTC trial. So again, they're trying to figure out how to do certain things, and with FTC and this and that.
Yeah.
They're always analyzing things. Every day they're always analyzing, and people don't understand that things change regardless. I was going to go to this job today, but something happened. I got a text message from somebody else. They have a bigger emergency, so I'm going to go to a different job.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, it is what it is. You just have to understand people don't like change, and there's always going to be this pushback. We just don't know what their deal is.
Right.
They're being transparent with us, but obviously not fully transparent, because you can't give away your secrets. You can't give away certain information. So there's certain key things you have to hold tight to your chest regardless.
Right.
And unfortunately, some people take it to heart, and we have what we have. Now we
Right.
have Xbox abandoning us. We have Xbox doing it. They're keeping themselves alive.
Yeah.
If I got to do the same thing, I'm sure I'd probably do the same thing. I don't know, and we can only guess so much. But unfortunately, it is what it is. Certain games will flourish regardless. Certain games need that extra help.
I
Certain game.
feel like because we brought up Starfield before. I know I posted a poll. Some people got pissed off about it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like it's obviously just a poll. Now, do I think Starfield might go? Possibly, but I think I think out of all the games currently in the pipeline for Xbox, Indiana Jones was probably the one most likely to go. Obviously, because when the Sony leaks happened, we saw how much PlayStation, how many units they had to sell and how much they had to pay Disney just for having that Marvel license. Now, obviously, Lucas, like the George Lucas IPs that Disney bought, aren't necessarily one for one going to be the same negotiated numbers as Marvel, but it is the parent company Disney that owns the Indiana Jones franchise, and you have to assume that they're going to have to pay Disney a decent chunk of change just for having this IP as their game. So it's like they could have kept it exclusive, but it almost feels like it would have been almost like a negative. It would have cost them more money than it was worth to keep it exclusive, just because you have Disney attached.
Mm.
You know,
Well, you look at Major League Baseball. What did they do to Sony?
yeah, yeah,
So Sony would have kept it where they kept it, and they were forced to make it multi-plat.
right,
So they had no choice. The same scenario here. So no matter who's trying to talk to Disney, I'm sure they were probably trying to keep it exclusive or under the right metrics to go multiply. So again,
right,
we don't know the situation, we don't know the conversations, we don't know the back and forths
yeah,
of, hey, how about we bend the knee here, and we're not bending over here. I mean, we don't know, and that's the unfortunate part, is a lot of people get upset and
right,
and kind of speak out of turn when they
right.
don't know the situation.
And it's like I can't speak for everybody, but for me personally, I do have a PlayStation 5 and an Xbox Series console. I subscribe to Game Pass Ultimate, so all of these games drop on Game Pass day one. I'm obviously going to play them. But, as a live streamer and content creator, like with Xbox, you can't live stream to YouTube, but you can with the PlayStation 5. So that kind of is, that's kind of a deciding factor as far as where I'm going to buy some of these games at, because the PlayStation 5 has that capability and Xbox doesn't. Now, obviously, if Xbox has Indiana Jones locked down and it wasn't going to PlayStation, I have no choice. But now that it's going to PlayStation 5 and they do let you live stream to YouTube, and I have a YouTube channel, that's, like I said, for me, that's something that I take into consideration as far as where I'm going to buy this game at.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't go for everyone, but I mean, like I said, for me personally, that's something I take into consideration.
Yeah, see, and that's the thing, is there's so many different variations of streamers and situations that you never know. I mentioned I'm using a 2 PC method with the Xbox. I don't have
Right.
2 PCs. I have one.
Yeah.
So I'm using that method the same way. Uh, you're using the direct method because PlayStation allows it. Now, obviously, we know that there's an issue with Microsoft and Google, which is why we don't have that ability.
Right.
But yeah, and that's unfortunate, because otherwise I'm sure it would be there also. Because YouTube could use more streamers, even if it's just another person, tiny giant just wanting to play. and she wants
Right.
to jump in and stream, she could do it easily. I have to set her up for it. I have to do all this extra stuff. But
Yes.
as obviously when it comes to kids, they're a little bit more restrictive.
Right.
But as a parent, I could set her up and just have at it. You can just watch the gameplay. She can talk to her friends, but you can't listen to this. You know what I mean? But again,
Yes.
I have to set it up with the PC, which now means I have to move a PC out in the living room. I have to build one. It's
Right.
very restrictive to me to do something like that. Whereas, like you said, with the PlayStation, anybody could just jump on, stream it over. There have been issues, and obviously they, over time they have fixed some of those issues.
Right.
Um, I watched several people stream, and it hasn't been good over the past couple of years, but it's gotten better. And you can't really fault them for that. It's
Right.
sometimes technology is what it is, but that's the cool thing is when you have the opportunity to do that. Now you have to think: do I go day one, or do I wait 4 months
Right.
and go in and buy it this way? Which
Yeah.
what do I do?
Well, I mean, and even talking about multi-plats that aren't attached to PlayStation or Xbox, I'm guilty of double dipping. Buying for the PS4 and the Xbox One. And I think this is going to be the same way. And I think if the game's good enough, you'll have people play it on, through Game Pass on Xbox, but they'll buy it on PlayStation, just so they can have it on both systems. And I kind of feel like that's what Microsoft is kind of counting on, for
Hmm.
people to check it out in Game Pass, but then they also buy it on PlayStation.
Yeah, as long as I'm sure if you have like your cross save there, it would be more beneficial.
Right, that would be nice.
There's many different things um, that could happen as long as they plan it out and set it up right.
Right. There, hold on. I know Tom was talking about Starfield. There's something I want to bring up on Starfield. Give me just a second. Let me see. Um, Hold on. I gotta share my screen. Give me a second. Let me see. I think this one is it. Yep. So, it dropped today. The Rev 8 jumps, shoots, and can even mine for resources, and it's Vasco approved. Get yours from your favorite cities. Ship services technician available as part of tonight's free update. So that's cool. That's cool that they did this. Hold on a second. Let me see. I don't want them to, strike my
Yeah,
channel,
yeah.
so I'm just going to turn off the volume. But as you can see, I mean, a lot of people have been calling for this because walking across these planets, I mean, you're talking like 900 meters out to where you're supposed to take out some bad guys. It can be a hell of a journey, especially when you're coming back and you've looted all those bodies and you have all the spacesuits and all the guns. With this, it's going to be a hell of a lot easier, And I know people have been asking for this for a while. What do you think of their ability, or what do you think of them including this now versus possibly bringing it at launch? Do you think this was something they should have included at launch?
I think they should have, but at the same time, it's like, what was their vision? Was this part of
Right.
the vision in the first place? Because if it was, it should have been. But if it was never in their vision, then I don't. Again, it's hard to say after the fact. You know, uh,
Right.
you know what they want. And the whole video of 24 frames a second. We want it to be movie esque. We want it to this and that. Some of it's just talk. We know that.
Right.
But what is truly the vision? Is the vision to get it out there? Is the vision um, not included that and said, you know what? These people are probably right. Our fans are 100% right. We should have put this in as opposed to just ignoring it. We should have done this, and now it took us a year to figure how to implement this into the game. A lot of times you have a box, and from interviewing devs, you can
Right.
only fit so much in this box.
Right.
So once you start changing things, it alters other things. So you have to take certain things out. So the physics, the mechanics of a vehicle, um, maybe it wasn't planned in there quite
Right.
100%. And it took them the year to figure out how to do this. I don't know. So I think, in retrospect, yes, it should have been there. But again, I don't want to tell devs what to do with their game, because I wouldn't want
Right.
somebody telling me what I should do or shouldn't have done with my game when I had a certain vision. And sometimes, we are closed minded like that, that we don't see a bigger picture because we're so closed minded. This is my game. This is the way I want to do it. But we've also seen how devs have ruined games by listening to the fan base. You
Yeah.
know, what was it? We Happy Few is one of them. My wife and I, that's not what they presented to us at first, and the fans
Right.
have walked them through on how to ruin the game. Given
Yes.
them what they wanted, and they ruined the game. It's still a decent game. It's not where it should have been. So it's that happy medium that you got to figure out, because then you have games like um uh, what was that other one? Uh, I can't remember what it's called now. The Bite Back Edition, the vampire one.
Um, you're talking about Redfall.
Redfall. Thank you.
Yeah.
Where people are like, yeah, 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 this is great, and overall, it was a good game. It
Yeah.
should have been polished a lot better, especially for the last few times that we've had to wait for those delays.
Yeah.
You would have thought it would have been better, but I mean, I played with Retri and Back from the Dead and a few other people,
Right.
and we had a good time. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We were laughing. Some of the glitches made us laugh, just because they glitches are glitches. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
they weren't game breaking. They just, things happened.
Right.
And then you have games like Dead Island 2 that come out damn near perfect,
Yes.
minimal glitches. I mean, it took who was it? Somebody and I were playing, and we got to a spot where you shot the bowls on a table in the kitchen, and
Yeah.
they just started spinning and just kept
Right.
on spinning indefinitely. It was like, all right, that's a glitch. I found a glitch. Oh my god, the game's
Right.
broken. You know, but
Yep.
people make things bigger than they really are,
Right.
and when it comes to something like this, should it have been there? Probably, but maybe it just wasn't in their vision at that time.
Right. Talking about the vision for Starfield, I remember Todd Howard specifically saying, well, our vision for Starfield was 30 frames per second, you know, and like Mari Povich would say, results, came back, that was a lie, so it makes me wonder how much else they're going to add to the game that should have been in the game at launch, but it's just they either ran out of time or they thought what they had was good enough,
Well, there's also the fact of, I know that Xbox gives them time, but
Yeah.
there's, at some point in time, you have to give me a product. You
Right.
can only spend so much. So between Bethesda and Xbox and Microsoft, somebody was saying, look, it's been long enough. Give me something playable. Give me something to
Right.
put out there, and we can, because we're going to have legs on this thing. We're going to have longevity on this. We can fix those issues later, but this is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to go. Give me something with the bare minimums. So again, we don't know the situation. That might have been the vision.
Right.
Um, there might have been some pressure. It might have been both. So we can only guess, and be respectful with
Right.
our criticism,
Yeah.
and be like, look, this ain't cutting it. We need better.
Right.
It's great, we love it, but could have been better, especially at launch.
So let's just speculate. Just a yes or no. Do you think at any point within the next few years, Starfield will drop on PlayStation?
I'm out. No, I'm kidding. Okay. I
I mean, I know that's kind of a loaded question.
No, 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 no. The thing is, I can see it happening,
Right.
right? I can see it, and I have no issues with games that have outdone their usefulness. if they're just eating up servers, there's nothing going on with the game, there's nobody playing it, the interest is gone. What do? You push it out somewhere. And sometimes those games that get pushed out to other platforms bring people back to the original platform to play some more, or oh wow, I didn't realize there was a DLC. Oh
Right.
wow, you know what I mean? So sometimes that can lead to more money. Definitely for the other platforms, again, this is the same issue I have with Square Enix when
Right.
they do what they do,
Yeah.
um, and then they're like, well, there's no interest in the other platforms. Well, no, there would have been interest, but those that have waited this long gave up and
Right.
bought it on the other platform that they didn't want to play it on, but they
Right.
bought it because they had to wait. So it's that catch-22. Which way do you go? Do you put it out here and wait for it to die and then put it out to the other platforms,
Right.
or do but you have to look at those metrics, because I mean, look at Pentiment. Who would have bought Pentiment just first sight, even playing it?
Yeah. That's
You
a
know,
Game Pass game. That's definitely a Game Pass
yeah,
game.
that was a game that I downloaded and started to play, but stopped. I just did. I lost interest. But I'm glad I didn't pay the money for it. And then
Right.
you wonder on the Sony side, when it came over, how many people bought it? Was there really truly interest? And that's what I'm saying, the Game Pass effect has an effect where you can't really truly know the numbers of
Yeah.
people that would have paid for this um, initially,
Right.
and taking the leap. Granted, it is a cheaper game, so there would be some more people that would do stuff like that. It is a non-mainstream, because we know a lot of friends that don't like mainstream games for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So when it comes to stuff like that, you see the differences. So for Starfield to go over, I can see them doing it only later on.
Right.
I I,
I know
I
it's
want to be
it's an awkward
greedy.
question. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to be greedy and say no, but I'm just looking at the trend, and I'm
Right.
looking at reality. Is a lot of us are with inflation, pricings for games is getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
Um, Food, so some people have to live with, try to figure out how to live,
Yeah.
eat. So some of the stuff is a factor that you can't predict,
Right.
and sometimes that might be the choice of, hey, look, we need to shift this over because we're not getting as many sales, or at least the sales have dwindled. The count of people that we've estimated that would have joined Game Pass have left, because some people do subscribe to a service, play the game that they want to play, and then they say there's nothing here for me, and then leave.
Yes.
They don't come back. They'll come back when the next big game is that interests them. So in between those times, they've lost that money.
That's
So
me. That's me with Ubisoft Plus. I do that.
mhm.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's many different factors that we can't predict. We can only surmise the possibilities, and
Right.
that's why speculation's fun when it comes to stuff like that. But
Yeah.
sometimes you can see a trend, and this is where the trend is going.
Right. All right. That's cool. I mean, I kind of feel the same way. That I think Starfield is gonna drop at least in the next couple years, but I mean, who knows, right?
Hmm.
Moving on to less pessimistic conversation. They finally announced the Borderlands 4 that we all knew was in development, obviously. It's just a teaser trailer right now. Let me see. So, Borderlands 4 announced with teaser trailer at opening night live, Gamescom 2024. And let me see. Can I make this any bigger? Nope, I guess that's it. Okay. So, obviously, I'm not going to. You know what? Let me do this. Because I know it's probably on YouTube, so I'm going to pull it up on YouTube. Because it's probably a better place to look at it anyway. Give me just a second. Because I want the full screen,
Yeah, it was a cool little teaser.
Yeah, I'm definitely a fan of the Borderlands franchise. Much more than like. Give me a second. Have to wait for an ad to finish playing. Ridiculous. You know, they have so many ads. It's crazy. All right, let me see. Here we go. Borderlands. All right. Here we go. Yeah, so Borderlands 3 I felt was the weakest in the series, but that still didn't stifle my excitement for the franchise as a whole. And of course, I was very much looking forward to hearing about the future of Borderlands. Are you a fan of Borderlands as well, or is it kind of one of those franchises you're like, I just never connected with it?
No, I'm a fan of it. I've got all the games. Even spent the extra money for the upgrade version.
Right.
So yeah, no, we played it. We streamed Borderlands 3. Had like good 4 hours the first time we played it. But yeah, I enjoy it. I enjoy it for what it is. Some people don't like looter shooters, but
Right.
if you just don't think about certain games a certain way, and you just play it for what they are, you'll enjoy them.
You know, I get that some people might not like Borderlands just because of its art aesthetic, but I mean that's what makes it unique, and it doesn't really detract from it. You know, in my opinion. Damn Poison Maniac has not played a Borderlands games, and he asked if it's worth playing. What would your advice be to Maniac?
What are you, crazy? No. No.
Like which game he should start with?
I'd say start with the first one. Well, kind of like 2 So
Yeah.
it's first one's rough around the edges. The second one's better. Third is decent. It just didn't get it. It didn't get as good of a welcoming, but they
Right.
supported it a lot. There was a lot more support.
Right.
So I'd say the best thing to do is to play with somebody. Let somebody let you lead versus, hey, follow me and let's take over and tell you everything about it that you're still trying to learn and still trying to grasp.
Right.
So don't find a teacher. Find somebody that will let you kind of experience it, and someone that will kind of keep going with them.
Right.
I think you kind of should play them in order, just so you can appreciate it, because sometimes going back isn't as easy
Right.
because of the changes and the upgrades. But I think if you did 1, 2, prequel, 3, and then hopefully by that time 4 will be out, and you'll have a good time. And on top of that, you can play by yourself. But I think if you played with somebody, it would help you get past certain parts. Because I do know when I started playing, I was playing with friends, and then I
Yeah.
played by myself, and I get to a certain spot, I was like, what's going on here? Like, I keep on dying.
Right.
And because again, you get into Rambo mode because they're OP and they're running through like everything.
Yes.
So let them kind of let you run through it and follow you versus you following them. Because
Right.
when you do go by yourself, you're just gonna think, no problem, I'll deal with it, and no.
It's also nice that it's couch co-op and it's online co-op, either one.
Yeah.
Which it's a rarity, especially nowadays, because couch co-op is pretty much neglected. But if you do have friends in real life, not all of us do, but some of us do, then all of you can sit on the couch and play Borderlands. It's amazing.
See this? This is an elbow. I haven't had it put it to good use in a while.
Right.
For those that coach co-op, you know what I mean.
Yep. Yeah. I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'm very happy that they announced it. Another game that they announced that I'm very much looking forward to is, not Dying Light, but Mafia. I'll talk about Dying Light, the next game, here in just a little bit. Give me a second. I'm going to pull this up. About the new Mafia game. I was really hoping it would have gone to like the 70s or 80s, but I guess they're going back to the old country, which is, it's all right. Here we go. So, the new Mafia game revealed, set to release next year. And Mafia: The Old Country has been unveiled. Let me see. There we go. That's decent. That's not bad. Yeah, with because like with Mafia 3, it didn't really do that well, compared to the other ones. I don't think.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of friends loved it, but it just didn't. It didn't hit. So I don't know why. For as many that have played it, loved it, for it to not be a big hit. Um, I think it did decent, but I do like the fact that they're trying to go back to these older aesthetics,
Right.
trying to change it up a little bit. No, and then you get some of these TV shows, that are doing that anyway. So I think part of that may have been influenced by like Cheeky Blinders and some of these other
Right.
ones. You know what I mean? So I think that may be of some influence
Right.
as to that, and maybe the era for 3 just didn't hit as well.
Right.
So you look at it as a kind of like a reboot to the series without rebooting the series.
Yeah, I think and it's like some people were actually excited that it's going back, and at first I'm kind of like, I don't know about that, but I think the classic era of the Mafia games was the better era, and I'm not saying that I didn't like Mafia 3. I did, but I think it's kind of the spirit of the Mafia franchise is about those older times.
Mm-hmm.
Is about like the title says, the old country. And I know with, of course, Mafia's coming out next year. We have GTA coming out next year. I think it's going to be a huge year for Take-Two because of that. Because
Yeah.
you have these open world crime action games that are dropping. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Godfather, you look at those movies being so classic,
Yeah.
and you look at modern day mafia movies. The best one I'd still say would be like Goodfellas or what was the other one?
Um,
Oh, come on, say hello to
yeah.
my little friend.
Right.
Come on,
Scarface.
Scarface. Thank
Yeah.
you. Sorry, I'm still waking up. Okay.
Right. Right. No, it's all good. It's all good.
So you look at those ones, and they have a classicness to themselves, which is why Grand Theft Auto also does so well
Yeah.
with those eras. But again, it's hard to hit today's style. It's hard to hit today's thing. I mean, look at what was it, Battlefield and Call of Duty. They did so well back in those days with that era. Now we're modern era,
Yeah.
and they try to go back. Again, those games just don't fit right with action shooters. So
Right.
same thing here. This is the opposite. It's just you want some. You're looking for a better storyline and that drama where the action fills in, so you have uh, more of that storyline to guide you around. So it's cool to see something like that, and the fact that they're trying something versus forcing something.
Right.
They keep on trying to reinvent themselves, and
Yes.
that's what you want. I often put bands the same way that once bands start sounding the same like they did the last album, what was the difference? What was the point? I might as well just have listened to the last album for another 10 years.
Right.
Now you're giving
Yeah.
me the same thing, same beat, same everything, same chorus, same. It's just the different words. You know what I mean?
Right.
Same breaks. It's like, what was the point? REM got called out for doing that. They didn't. They didn't do that. And it's like, no, they got
I
a couple
mean,
songs.
well, and it's like that classic sound worked for so many years, but as times change, sometimes these bands do need to change.
Yeah.
Just like these franchises in gaming. And it's like people can say, "Well, I don't want it to change too much." And it's like, yeah, but you always have those older games you can always go back to that you can always play. Those are, they're old experiences, but you can always go back and play them. the way to keep a franchise alive is to not keep rehashing the same type of experience over and over again. It's that reinvention. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you got to reinvent yourself and you got to stay fresh, especially with gaming getting more and more competitive as it gets bigger. You know, gaming is now much more mainstream than it was when the first Mafia game released over 20 years ago. And it's like these gaming companies have to look at what the gamers really want and what's going to excite them. And if that requires them to reinvent their franchise, by all means, do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Give me just a second. Let me see. I am going to talk about the new Dying Light game. The reason why I said I wasn't really looking forward to it is because I loved Dying Light 1. I absolutely adored it. I bought it on both PlayStation and Xbox. Dying Light 2 just felt like it didn't stand on the same level as Dying Light 1. And that's probably just me. I'm sure the community's kind of split about it. But, you know, Dying Light 2 just kind of felt like it wasn't as great as it could have been. Now, before I talk about Dying Light, the Beast, I guess is what it's called, have you played Dying Light 2, and was it a game that you really enjoyed, or were you kind of like, well, this is a disappointment compared to the original?
You know, it's I haven't.
You haven't played Dying Light? Wow.
I've played Dying Light,
Just
but
not Dying Light
2.
2. Okay.
Yeah, it's. I'm still working on Dying Light 1, and
Right.
I've loved the expansions, all the stuff that they've done for it. It's just, I've got friends that have played it, and they love it.
Yeah.
I just haven't gotten into it. I wanted to get into it. I just, again, work is taken over a lot for me, so I've had to leave podcasts
Right.
because of so much work. And
Yeah. I get that.
yeah, that's, again, it's just one of those things. Is I wanted to play it, and hopefully I will play it. And now that we have the Beast, man,
You got to catch up. You got to
yeah,
catch up.
I got to play catch up. You know, FOMO is killing me on this,
Yeah.
but I think it's a good thing. I was hoping that it would be an expansion, but it doesn't
Right.
look like it is.
Yeah, I think it's a full new game.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Asking me if I'm 17 or older. Oh, yeah. Have been for like the past 30 years. All right. Yep. Okay. So, turn the sound off. Very good. Here we go. So I'm not sure when this is set time-wise. Now, Techland, they make great games, and my issue with Dying Light 2 was not the gameplay or any of that. It was just the story and the setting, which it's minor gripes. It's just like Dying Light 1 obviously takes place in a more Middle Eastern setting. You can tell it's like Turkey or something. And Dying Light 2 takes place kind of in a European setting, and that's kind of where I was like, I just don't like it as much as the first one. But again, the gameplay was solid, it was phenomenal. And so it's not like Techland doesn't have the chops to pull this off. You know, it like I said, with me, my only complaint really was a little the story, but more the setting, you know. So I am excited about this to a point, but just not as much, you know, as I would have been, I guess. You know.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at the scenes and the backgrounds and everything.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the funny thing is the way that these guys are dressed. It seems like it's early, and then when you look at this, it's hard to tell, even with the clock tower and all that,
Right.
what where the setting is. You know, I can't really tell. It looks like it's like Europe still or something.
Yeah, it might be like Eastern Europe.
Yeah,
That's kind of what it looks like.
Yeah, it's quite possible. You know, I'm just looking. Is there a Ferris wheel in there? Because then we know we're back in Pripyat.
Right.
But no, it's just it looks interesting. Like I said, I think I want to play it. It looks like it could have been a good spin-off, and it could be its own standalone spin-off that they just said, you know what, we'll just make it a full-fledged game.
Right. Yeah, what was the game that they had a DLC and they said, you know what, just let's just make it a full-fledged game. It was something recent. I don't even remember what it was. But I remember thinking, oh well, you know, that's a nice DLC, and then they expanded into a whole game, and it's like that doesn't always work, you know. Like
Well,
with Grant,
God of War was one of those.
which one?
The second one. That was
Oh,
supposed to
God
be
of War
DLC.
2. Right.
Yeah,
Well,
Valhalla.
okay, Valhalla. Yeah, I could see that.
That was supposed to be, and then they decided that they had so much that they said, "Well, make it a
Right.
full-fledged game," and then they added more. So
Right. That seems like it's substantial enough to be its own game, you know.
yeah,
And Dying Light 2 is pretty big. It's like if I was going to give you an estimate of how long it's going to take you to complete it, maybe 20, 25 hours. You know, so I'm hoping that Dying Light the Beast is close in size because Dying Light 2 came out what, like 2 years ago? So it's kind of close. It makes you
was it
wonder.
2 years ago?
I think it might have been 3 years ago.
Maybe I was gonna say maybe 3 years ago. I think.
But with a game this size, I mean, it's going to take time, especially with how complex games are now. That's kind of why it feels like it's leaning a little more towards being, like you said, DLC that became its own game. You know, I wonder if that's going to be the case.
Right.
And, you know, they announced it officially at Gamescom, but I think we'll probably see more, you know, in the upcoming months, especially. Did they say it was coming up next year? Let me see. It doesn't have a release date, I don't think. So it's probably 2026 or 2027. But I mean, hopefully we can figure more out. You know, whenever they talk more about it.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. They also talk about Black Ops 6. First look at the Call of Duty Black Ops 6 campaign. Let me see. Let me screen share with this. Here we go. First look at the Call of Duty Black Ops 6 campaign at Gamescom. Activision showed off the Call of Duty Black Ops 6 campaign during opening night live, kicking off Gamescom 2024 in the process. After the criticism the campaign for Modern Warfare 3 received last year, the pressure was on Black Ops 6 campaign developer to deliver. This time, action set in the early 1990s. Are you a big Call of Duty guy? Is this something that's been on your radar?
Uh, yes and no. It sounds bad. No, I'm a huge fan of Call of Duty. I just don't play it as much as I wanted to.
Right.
I used to be good, not as good anymore. So obviously lack of time.
So is Black Ops 6 something you're looking forward to, trying to jump into? Or I
Yeah,
know you said you have a lot of work, you know, so
yeah.
it's hard to devote enough time really to.
I, I usually devote more time to the campaign,
Right.
and then after that I go to multiplayer, and then kind of so I'm always behind when it comes to multiplayer. My skills are a little behind. All my weapons are behind
Right.
because usually again I focus on campaign first
Okay.
and kind of go from there. So I plan on streaming the campaign and enjoying the game when I can,
Right.
and then jumping on with Game Beyond the Box or whoever else is playing, and jumping on with
Right.
everybody.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. You know, I like years ago I used to be more multiplayer, but just when you have life, you know, when you have all these responsibilities, it's hard to spend
Hmm.
10 or 15 hours, you know, even in a week really getting good at the multiplayer where you can be competitive. You know, and the campaign, I mean, it's basically like a Hollywood movie anyway, so it's, you know, it's entertaining and it's a lot of fun. So as far as like the campaign goes, it is something that interests me. Multiplayer, I might check it out, but to be honest with you, man, it's like since Modern Warfare 2019, that was like the real last Call of Duty that I really played a lot. Modern Warfare 2019 on the PlayStation 4, I played it almost religiously, but after that, I just, especially with Modern Warfare 2, I didn't really devote as much time to multiplayer, and I kind of fell out of the rotation, so to speak. You know, so I'll check out the multiplayer. If it's solid, then I'll definitely start devoting more time to it. But like you said, campaign kind of comes first. You know.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, again, I generally am not a solo multiplayer guy. Sometimes I do. I just go through and just sit back and just run through and not give a rat's whatever, just just to play. But typically, I'd rather, when it comes to multiplayer, I'd rather play with friends.
Yeah.
Then that way, um, it's more entertaining. So again, a lot of my gameplay has drifted over from just playing to play to playing with friends.
Yeah.
More times than not, it's I'm trying to find somebody to hang out with, even if it's for a few hours. That's why a lot of times I try to do the streaming when it comes to certain things, because I'll just hang out with people in chat.
Right.
Again, it used to not be like that. Now it is what it is. Your tastes change, your styles change.
Well,
Not
and
everybody's the same.
like when you spend a lot of time at work, when you're young and you don't have a lot of hours you have to work, you have more time for social time with your friends and stuff. But when you get older, I mean, it's like you don't have that much time to really go around. So if you're able to hang out with your friends and game at the same time, I mean, you're killing two birds with one stone. So that's the way I think that's the way a lot of us have kind of changed over time.
Hmm.
We enjoy our games, but we also want to use that as a time to hang out with our friends and to get to do something because, like you said, with having to work so much, it's hard to find extra time to go out of your house and do some of the stuff we used to do.
Yeah.
So multiplayer gaming is it, and it seems like Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is going to be fire in that aspect. I think it's going to be much more solid than Modern Warfare 3 was. I know I played Modern Warfare 3 for all of like 2 hours and then I uninstalled it. I just was not impressed. I didn't even touch the multiplayer, but I've always been a big fan of the Black Ops franchise, so fingers crossed this is going to be super solid. It definitely looks solid. It looks great, especially the campaign.
Yeah.
But hopefully the multiplayer is, hopefully the multiplayer can kind of rekindle some of that magic, at least for me, that the franchise hasn't really had since Modern Warfare 2019. Looking
It's like
forward to it.
diminishing returns we talked about before. Here we are
Yep.
again. These
Yep.
graphics look great. I mean, how much better can you make them look? We're watching movies now that we're playing.
Yes.
So
It's
again,
almost photorealistic at this point.
yeah. I mean, are we going to get cameras again where we can scan our faces into the player?
Right.
I want to. I know I'm bringing this up, but I kind of want that back again. I want to be able to shoot my friends in the face just as well as them shooting me in the face. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Yeah.
it was cool back in those days with Rainbow Six, where you could have your face on there, and you know, didn't look ultra realistic, but it would be cool to see something like that at some point in time with these Call of Duties or Modern Warfare. Uh, what is it? Battlefields.
Battlefield, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Battlefield kind of fell off, though. Battlefield isn't a game that a whole bunch of people are talking about anymore. Not
No.
really.
It made it come back, but it just didn't. It didn't pick it back up again.
Right.
It's recruit up, and it's made comebacks, but it's not where it used to be. Not like its legend is.
And at least with Activision, because it's like Call of Duty is really their golden cow, I guess, if you want to call it that. That's their moneymaker. That's where they really, that's their franchise, and they don't want to screw it up. Whereas EA, it kind of feels like they're not really a jack of all trades, but I think the saying "jack of all trades, master of none" is a great way to describe Electronic Arts, because it's like they have racing games and they have sports games and they have shooting games, and they're not really good at any of them. At least not anymore.
Right.
And that's kind of why Battlefield fell off. But I think everyone's concern was that if Battlefield fell off, that Call of Duty would go down in quality, and I think that happened a little bit. But it's nice to see with Black Ops 6 that they're really going all out and they're trying to keep it as high quality as they possibly can.
Yeah, and I do like the direction of let's not keep pushing these things out every year.
Right.
I'm tired of the Madden setup. Basically, every year there's I've said it before years ago. Why not make Madden on a base for like 4 years and just keep on adding and updating and expanding on it,
Yes.
and then make a whole new engine, a whole new game, whatever, every 4 years to make that leap. So you see a small progression, and then 4 years you got a huge progression. And same thing here. These teams are putting out a game and then they're supporting it, and then they have to put out another game in 3 years, 4 years. So it's just it's nice now that they have a little bit more time in between these launches.
Yeah.
At least that's the theory, right? Because everything changes. That
Right.
could have been what they said, but we'll see what happens.
Now, talking about shooters, there's actually another shooter. It's kind of a shooter, I guess. It's the new Sniper Elite. It's actually called Sniper Elite Resistance, and it was revealed at Gamescom 2024. Are you a fan of the Sniper Elite series? Have you played any of their recent games?
Yes. I played the last one.
Sniper Elite 5.
Yes.
That
I
was
think
actually on Game Pass, I think.
I want to say I played 4 also, but yeah, it was on Game Pass. Again, games I would not buy, but I would definitely play without with no problems. It's just micromanaging money when it comes to stuff
Right.
like this. But I love the bullets freeze, and it gives you the X-ray of how the bullet's passing through and all the stuff that it's damaging on the way through. And I love those kind of shots.
Yeah.
They never get old. Um, just all the stuff that you do. So it's cool to see that you can run and gun it, which usually never works out for you.
Right.
But it's nice to see that you still have some sort of sneaking around that you got to do, more tactile on how to do certain things, and you just kind of sit there and pick people off from a distance, and then you find out, oops, I screwed up. There's like a few more people here I didn't even notice,
Yeah.
and now we got to Rambo this thing, and hopefully I took out everything before I get bombarded. So, but yeah, I do like it. It's just not a franchise that I go out of my way for,
Right.
but I think it's a good franchise. And if people are interested in this stuff, definitely try it out. Definitely play it. It may be more your thing than some of these other ones like Call of Duty. So you never know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think, anymore, I think Sniper Elite is more of a franchise that resonates with me than like Battlefield has.
hmm
And I know I bought Sniper Elite 2, 3, 4, and 5. I didn't buy Sniper Elite 5 at launch. I actually played it on Game Pass. And I had PlayStation Plus for quite a while, and it was on PlayStation Plus. But I bought the game on PlayStation 5, obviously, because I can live stream to YouTube. And with those great kill cams, it just makes for a great game to live stream, you know?
yes,
And so hearing that this comes out, even if they're like, hey, it's not coming to Game Pass, because I am a fan of the franchise, it is still something I'm going to buy. It's interesting that they said you're not actually playing as Carl Fairburn, which is a sniper you've pretty much played as the entire series. You're playing as Harry Hawker, and it's parallel with Sniper Elite 5. So it kind of begs the question if they're going to go away from Carl Fairburn for a while and go with these spin-off types of experiences with the franchise.
see, you know, I like this style.
Yeah,
Okay, because now it expands the lore. It's not just, and I've said this with Halo, I said this with a few other ones. I like this style because what happens is now you can hurry up and push out these games a little bit faster because it's based on the same engine, it's based on the same. So all you do is minute tweaks. Same thing like I just said with Madden, right?
right.
4 years of these tweaks and stuff like that and updates to enhance whatever you had before and make it better. You do the same thing here, but now you can push out the next game even faster. You expand the lore, you expand more information that gives the story value,
Right.
that gives your gameplay value. It entices you to learn more about other things than just the one character.
Yeah.
There's other things going on in the world, and learning that this also happened at the same time. And some there was one or two games that have done that where the expansion played along with your gameplay. I can't
Right.
remember which one it was, but it wasn't necessarily your gameplay, but it went along with the story of how where you would have been with your gameplay.
Right.
And as the story progressed this way, you're here now progressing this way, and they're kind of crossing paths. So it's cool to see stuff like that. Again, it makes it more interesting, and you're not waiting as long for these games. So if I don't know, more devs can listen and do something like that, so that way they can push out more games. I mean,
Right.
360, we had so many games coming out left and right.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna go back to Halo. We had what 3 different games on the same Halo engine.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't wait 6 years for one game.
Yeah, and the thing with Halo Infinite is they were building that brand new engine, and it's like, why do that? That's taken up so much time.
Twice they built it
Yes.
twice.
Yes. Definitely.
And now they're building it again. Now the rumor is Unreal 5.
Yeah, they should have gone with Unreal Engine 4 when they had it, and just transitioned to Unreal Engine 5, because the differences between Unreal Engine 4 and 5, they're going to be noticeable, but it's very likely that how you build games in 4 versus 5 are going to be pretty similar. So it's not going to be a hell of a learning curve, like it is going from a completely different engine,
And it's not just that; it's an easier transition from 4 to 5 than it was from 3 to 4, because it was such a huge change. And now you have 4 to 5, which the transition is easy. You could easily upgrade 4 into 5, and those games could easily have been upgraded. Right? We'll quote it with the flip of a switch. We know it's not that.
Right.
But much more easier than previous. And now we're going to go with what we have now, and we're going to do this, and we're doing. It's like, why are we doing this?
Overcomplicating it.
Yeah, and I understand why on the one side, because that's money you have to pay Epic Games to use their engine.
Yeah.
So again, building your own engine, you don't have to pay for that. You're just paying for the startup to build it, and then you go from there. And if you use it again, it's not a big deal.
Right.
But again, Infinite was supposed to be a platform. Everything was supposed to come to Infinite. There was going to be more expansions. There was going to be different stories. What happened? It got abandoned. That's what happened.
And it seems like that happens a lot with Xbox.
Unfortunately.
You look at Crackdown 3, how grand it was supposed to be, and even in single player, all the environment was supposed to be destructible, and all of that was abandoned. They said, well, it's destructible in multiplayer, but they're basically like cardboard boxes in multiplayer. That's what they resembled.
Yeah, so, to give them a little bit of leeway, they did lose the devs that were making that first indestructible environment.
Right,
so they did lose that.
They ended up with Sumo Digital at the end, right?
Right,
yeah.
So.
Very unfortunate.
Yeah, all right. It is what it is.
Last thing, because there are games that were announced, but there were a lot of games that haven't been announced yet. We're going to talk about Gamescom 2024 predictions. Just, I have an article that I'm going to reference. Give me just a second. Let me see. Here we go. So, Gamescom predictions, everything from Resident Evil to Iron Man. Obviously, they have tons of, they have tons of different games that they're speculating. Obviously, one of them is Splinter Cell by Ubisoft. Now, we know that Ubisoft is working on Splinter Cell. Do you think we're going to see that at Gamescom?
I'm going to say it's a big one to announce, and this would be the place to announce it.
Right.
You know what I mean? They've gone multi-plat with Splinter Cell, so it wouldn't be that it's only on Xbox. So it would make sense to put it here, but I still think on the one side it's a little too early.
Right.
I think I do know that a lot of devs for years were afraid to touch it because it's the popularity has been going downhill.
Right.
Because of the games that they've been putting out, and nobody wanted to see a humanized humanized Sam Fisher. They wanted to see the super soldier Sam Fisher. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
So them coming back, and they've been teasing it with Wildlands and what was it, Breakout, something like
Breakpoint.
Breakpoint. There you
Yeah.
go. So stuff like that. It was cool to see them bringing them in,
Yeah.
testing out the hype, and I think finally somebody had the balls to say, hey, let's do this.
Yeah.
And so I hope they bring it back to old school.
Right. You mean
And
like super stealth, not
yes,
like action, just like straight stealth.
more stealth. Yeah, more of the black areas, and this is where you hide in these shadows, and then you see
Right.
the where it goes the white, and you're like exposed. Something more like that. So Pandora's Tomorrow, something like that would be fine. If
Right.
they do the proper storyline, I think um, that'll be the best way to do it. If they go back with his daughter storyline, I mean it's a good storyline, but I find it as a detractant.
From his skills and his operations.
Yeah.
Yeah. I completely get it. I think with Metal Gear Solid coming back, it's apparent that this type of game can succeed if it's done right.
Mm-hmm.
But just from what you've seen from Ubisoft over the past 2 years, do you think they can do Sam Fisher justice?
If they listen to the right people, yes.
Okay. So, like, if they listen to the fans, basically.
Listen to the proper fans.
The proper fans. There you go. Yep, that's the key. That's the key term. Proper fans.
Yes, proper fans.
Right.
The old school fans, not these
Right.
whining crybabies that want everything their way.
So not made for modern audiences, basically.
No. Sometimes in the see, here's the thing. What was it? Steve Jobs said it. Sometimes people don't know what they want.
You have to tell
We
them.
just got to tell them this is
Yeah,
what you want.
I remember that.
So
Yeah.
if they do that and they say, hey, this is what this is, and this is what you're getting. This is Sam Fisher, and I understand it may not be Michael Ironside because we're having issues,
Right.
but you're just gonna have to deal with it. And
Right.
unfortunately, you're gonna have these crybabies that are gonna be your gaming saviors that are gonna tell you that this is wrong and this and that. So when you have those people, don't listen to them. You know, try to listen to people that are reasonable and not trying to overhype something and be your gaming savior.
Right.
Don't fall for that. I still see it out there, and these people still have thousands of people that follow them, and it's like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. They're humans just like we are, and they're playing you,
Right.
and unlike we are, we're being truthful. Um, but I think if they do it the right way, and bring back Sam Fisher. Like I said, I didn't mind the story stuff, with the daughter,
Yeah.
it opens up the lore, right? So you got to experiment that way. I got no issues with that. But I think if you're going to bring it back, you need to bring it back the right way and go old school. Bring back what you had with the trilogy.
So out of the trilogy, which Splinter Cell do you think was the best?
You know what's funny is one is always good,
Right.
two is always better, and three doesn't always hold up.
Okay.
Doesn't always, right? So
Right.
sometimes three holds up. So it's again, it's that Borderlands 2, 3 issue we're having, right?
Right.
But I agree here with the game complainers. Conviction was good, but I think more people do love Pandora Tomorrow, and I think that one, in a way, for what it was better.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
if
I
if
remember
you're gonna
Splinter.
play one,
Yeah,
Pandora Tomorrow.
I remember Splinter Cell Conviction being pretty good. I don't
Oh, it's good.
remember. I don't remember much about Pandora Tomorrow, but I do remember I liked Conviction.
Yeah. Well, Pandora Tomorrow also opened up multiplayer.
Right.
So if they're looking at doing that, they need to follow that a little bit better. I
Right.
just for some reason, when it came to Splinter Cell multiplayer, I always sucked at it. It didn't matter if I was a spy, if I was a merc.
Right. It's just kind of
There was
yeah.
guys that could be mercs and just annihilate you. And then there was guys that were spies that would annihilate you. And it's like, I can't win
Right.
for losing here.
Right. Yeah. I remember playing Blacklist, and I think Blacklist had multiplayer too, didn't it?
I believe it did, yes.
I remember getting my ass handed to me in Blacklist because I was like,
Yeah,
"What the
yeah,
hell is going on?" Because like I played Battlefield 4 at the time, and I was actually pretty good, and then I go into Blacklist and I'm getting destroyed, and I was like, "What the hell is going on?"
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and that's the thing. There's always somebody better than you. There's
Right.
always somebody. No matter how top you are, there's always somebody better than you. We learned that the hard way. We played Halo so much. We were hooking up consoles at my friend's place because he had cable. So that was faster than what I had. So I'd bring over my hubs, and then I ended up getting switches. I had 2 Xboxes. I had the second Xbox with the second game. I had what was the other one? What we had? You had Rainbow Six.
Right.
So I had Dreadpool server as the second console that would host those things. But in the
Nice.
Halo times, I brought all that stuff over. Brought the 32-inch TV in the car. My buddy brought in his what do you have, like a 25-inch or something like that. Brought that in the car also. The Xboxes, like I said, the network. Hook it up to my buddy's place, and he would hook up his PC to GameSpy, and we would play online. But when we were just playing ourselves, it was like slamming them left and right. It was like awesome. You know, it was so
Right.
great. Hook up the GameSpy, and we played a couple matches with some people. We're like rocking them. We're like, we're that freaking awesome. And then we ran into a few people that smoked us. And it's like, I don't get it. They're like, what happened to our strategy?
Right.
None of it worked.
It's harder when you're playing against an actual person rather than AI because AI is programmed, but people are unpredictable.
Right. Well, we were playing against each other.
Okay. Right.
So,
Right.
you know, so we were playing.
Well, but you know each other's strategies because you're hanging around each other, and other people that you don't know are going to be unpredictable. You know.
Right. You know, and you're playing four player split screen LAN. You had 16 players.
Yeah.
So we're playing like that. We're and I'm like, we got a big TV. We did the same thing in the garage where we had a LAN party with Halo, and we had 16 players. We still had people that were sitting off to the side because we had such a big party,
Right.
and it was just all Xboxes, and some guys were playing on a little 18-inch screen or something like that, less than that. And they're like, yeah, I don't have to look as far. They were just focused in on that little screen.
Right.
Where I'm like, I got this bigger TV. We can split more people up so that we have a bigger screen. And they're like, nah, I'll stick with the smaller one.
Right.
They did
Right.
pretty good. But again, it was just, we had a great time doing stuff like that. And we don't see that as much anymore. And
Yeah.
I'd like to see that more often. So if they do come out with this, it would be good to have a multiplayer to be completely different from everything else.
Right. Right. Damn,
And
those were the days. Nice. Thank you. I do want to say thank you so far to everyone who has dropped in. Death Dealer, Dreadpool, obviously. Thank you so much for being my guest. We are going to cover a few more things before we wrap it up, because there's like different speculations that people are going over. Some of them in the thing, like they said, well, we're predicting, Dying Light 3. We already saw that, so I'm not going to cover that. But this one and the Iron Man thing, I want to talk about. Now, Ghost of Tsushima, do you think we're going to see that at Gamescom?
I think so. I think Sony likes to show stuff extra early sometimes. I'm hoping this time it's not extra early. I'm hoping they're showing something with coming soon date or some sort.
Like this generation, basically.
Yeah. I would hope so. They better.
So, have you played the first Ghost of Tsushima, and what did you think about it? Like,
I have not played it.
Wow.
No, I've heard good things about it. I made fun of the little fox in the wind and all that, but
Right.
But in reality, I do like the way that they did that to help the player out. we're
Right.
kind of like, hey, there's something here.
Yeah.
Um, and I do like the strategy from what I've seen and what I've heard. So I mean, I do want to play it. I just, again, you got to figure out where you're going to play, how much time you have.
Right. Yeah, it was a little big. It's obviously open world. I said it back then when it dropped that I felt that was the game of the year of 2020. But of course, because The Last of Us Part 2, the IP has a huge following, I kind of feel like that's why it won. Not that it was a better game, but just that it already had built up a huge following.
Mm-hmm.
Because Ghost of Tsushima, even on the base PS4, looked phenomenal.
Yeah.
It just blew my mind when I first played it, and I think that it surprised a lot of people, and so much that they put into that game shows just how much Sucker Punch really, they went to Japan and they really took in just the culture and the history, and that game shows how much they respect the source material, so to speak. And I'm not going to reference another game that other people are kind of disrespecting about Japan, because they say it's not really respecting Japan as much. But Ghost of Tsushima is one of those games where Sucker Punch shows just how much they respect it. And even people from Japan were tremendously impressed by how good Ghost of Tsushima was with capturing the historical feel and accuracy of how Japan was during that specific time.
Mm-hmm.
I think Ghost of Tsushima actually came to PC, didn't it?
I believe it did.
Well, see, there you go. I mean, you have a way you can play it
I have a
if
way.
your computer can run it.
Well, I have a PS5, so
Okay, all right.
it's not like I can't run it.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I don't know if it's a free upgrade for the PS5, but I know that they do have a PS5 version, I guess, which I've been meaning to play through again. I just haven't had time. So many games, you know how it is.
Yes.
But yeah, I would definitely say Ghost of Tsushima 1 is worth checking out. And I really hope that we do see Ghost of Tsushima 2 announced, because I think a lot of people are asking for it. And that's going to definitely be the shot in the arm that I think PlayStation needs right now. Even though Indiana Jones is dropping on PlayStation, I still feel like they need Ghost of Tsushima to drop on PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
Or Ghost of Tsushima 2, I'm sorry. Because it's such a phenomenal franchise and it has so much promise. And especially the foxes. I like the foxes. They were pretty cute. So, all right. Yeah, let me see. I know they had mentioned it. Oh, yeah. Sorry, everyone. Hollow Knight Silk Song is not going to be there. They pretty much confirmed it. Let me see. Where's Iron Man? I'm looking for Iron Man because that's one that I'm really looking forward to. I know they referenced it. Let me see. Iron Man is probably way at the bottom. Okay, well, here we go. Marvel 1943, Rise of Hydra. Gameplay. Do you think it's going to be shown? You think they're right with their predictions?
I sure hope so. I sure hope so. I'm looking forward to this one. I think it would be kind of cool. If they don't, I think sometimes some of these would be a missed opportunity if they don't show them. Some of them are, it might be too soon.
Right.
But I think this one here would benefit showing it at Gamescom.
I'm definitely looking forward to this as well.
Yeah, depending on where it stands in the build.
Right. I mean, yeah, because if it's alpha and they release something and they're like, hey, this isn't final, it's still going to get torn to pieces.
Right.
Yeah, people are kind of like that right now. Let me see. There we go. Iron Man. EA is working on Iron Man. What are your feelings about this? Is it something that you're looking forward to, or are you skeptical that EA is going to do a good job?
Yeah, have you ever heard of a game called Anthem?
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Now, those flight mechanics, were they not Iron Man?
Yes.
They
were.
were. They were great flight mechanics. I was like, mech suit, this is Iron Man, this is Superman, this is any kind of flight mechanic of a superhero.
Yeah.
They've got it pinned down. This is definitely an Iron Man setup, though. And, obviously the heating up and cooling down was pretty cool.
Right.
But, yeah, I have a feeling if they have the right team and I have a feeling they do, this is going to be another one of those games that will be a good showcase to the world of how Unreal Engine 5 is and how EA can make a game.
Right.
I think if they, as long as they've learned from Anthem and utilize those lessons, I think
Right.
they could do really good here. And then obviously the storyline is key, especially when it comes to comic books.
Right.
Any kind of comic book rendition has to have good storyline, and I think they could do it.
I'm cautiously optimistic. I did pre-order Marvel's Avengers. Compared to Anthem, the flight mechanic, the flight mechanics in Marvel's Avengers was horrendous compared to Anthem, because Anthem they had it figured out. Marvel's Avengers it felt very finicky, very squirrely. But like
Mm-hmm.
you said, Anthem, the flight mechanics were so solid. I mean, you could almost pretend that you were Iron Man flying around in that game. So it definitely was apparent that they got it right. And I hope that we see that in this Iron Man game. I think, especially since we know it's a single player game, I really hope that they go to the comics and use them as inspiration rather than trying to say, what, we're just going to tell a story that, was penned by a writer who hasn't really paid attention to the comics. It's like, don't do that. When you're
Yeah.
dealing with a comic book property, go to those comics. You're going to have many stories to reference and use something from the comics to come up with what you're going to put in the game. Because I think there's a lot of comic book nerds out there that are really going to appreciate it. They're going to look at it and say, hey, I remember when that was in the comics, and it's going to earn them a lot of praise. And if the gameplay is solid and the story is solid, I think a lot of people are going to pick this up. So I'm cautiously optimistic because it's EA, but I am optimistic.
Yeah, and then that's the thing. 'Cause as long as you get the fanboys of the comics loving this,
Yeah.
you'll get more people that'll get into this. So again, once you get something bad out of it, that it's like, this isn't it, this isn't great. Because I mean, look at the last Spider-Man that came out. Some people had issues with it,
Right.
and again, they've said this is a completely different universe from the
Yeah.
get-go, and
Right.
people still find issues with some of these Spider-Man games. And the Spider-Man games, as well as they sold, didn't sell as much as they should have. And this last one is a point proven. But again, sometimes people get into their feels and gut reaction and just spew out whatever they want to say versus
Right.
sitting down and actually enjoying a game for what it is. And I think it'll be a good game.
I think it will be too. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to say it'll probably be good. And if it is, even if it doesn't drop in Game Pass, I'm still going to buy it.
Yeah, I won't guarantee anything.
Right. Fair enough.
There's my PS. Won't guarantee everything.
Right. That's fair. That's fair. And that's a wrap of episode 3. I want to thank everyone that dropped by in the chat. Poison Maniac, Batman, Game Complainers. I know Legendary Yobi was here earlier. 3-Bit. Death Dealer, thank you so much for dropping in. And let me see. I'm looking to see. Pink Piggles, thank you for dropping in. If I missed anyone, I do apologize, but thank you for dropping by in the chat. I do appreciate it. If you did enjoy this podcast, definitely hit that like button and be sure to share it on social media. So even though people can't catch it live, they can catch it after the fact. Now, Dreadpool, do you want to tell our viewers where they can find you on social media and if you're in any podcasts or whether it's Anchor or whatever?
Yeah, right now the only thing I do is I'm still a guest panel member. I guess you would say resident guest is what I've been saying for Good Morning Xbox on the Iconic Video Games Podcast on Sunday mornings.
Nice.
But everywhere else I've kind of backed out. But I'm still available when I have time to jump on. Breakfast with Boom, Game Beyond the Box kind of shut down because there's nothing going on. So hopefully they'll start back up later on. And again, if I have time, I'll be back there with them. But other than that, just doing my own thing and going to theme parks, going to haunted houses, going to haunted trails,
Nice.
Trying to do different things other than just gaming, because I want to. My interests are everywhere. So yeah, my YouTube channel's everywhere. If you think
Right.
about it. So if for those of you that are looking on the screen or just listening, it's YouTube at Dreadpool. Make sure you put the at Dreadpool, because otherwise Deadpool and Wolverine kind of take over.
Right.
But yeah, you'll find me there. And I see Poison Maniac has put me on. It's on Twitter. It's Dreadpool. The O's are actually zeros. So I appreciate you guys supporting me at different places, and all you guys that came in for here. Yeah, I appreciate you guys following me here. Please, Sergeant Sentinel is a good friend of mine. So you guys can like, subscribe, and share this stuff out. So spread the love.
Spread the love. Thank you for being my guest. I do greatly appreciate it.
No problem.
To everyone who's listening or watching, I'm pretty simple to find. SSG Sentinel. That's Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and TikTok. Pretty simple. You can find me there. Anyway, like I said, that's it for this podcast. Thank you so much for watching. I do greatly appreciate it. Be sure to check out my other content on my YouTube channel, and keep an eye on this YouTube channel for next week's podcast. I have more guests on the way. This is SSG, aka Sergeant Sentinel. Take it easy, gamers.